Welcome, everybody, back to another wonderful chat with Maurice. And hey, we've taken a break for a couple of weeks. I went on vacation and just had a lot of things going on. I can't say it's really getting ready for the holidays, but there's just a lot going on, and I just needed some space in my life. In fact, I haven't done a video in a couple of weeks now. I'm getting ready to do another one, but sometimes you just have to honor where the energies are within you and just go with it. And Maurice was so kind. He's just like, go with the flow. He just go with the flow, and we'll get we'll do our chat when the time's right. So I really appreciate that about him. And the time is right now. We are recording this on Christmas Eve day, and it will be posted either tomorrow, a day early, or on Thursday. But anyways, I want to go ahead and welcome my dearest friend, Maurice. It's so good to be back chatting with you. I can't wait to see what comes out today.
Me too.
We actually did a little chat before time, and so we got a starting point where we want to launch into it. As our followers know, for our Thursdays with Maurice, that it always starts with one seed and then it spreads out in all different directions, and we literally go with the flow of what comes up. And I think that that's what makes it hopefully entertaining and engaging, because it's completely authentic, it's unscripted. It's just us tapping into each other and the wisdom and the questions and stuff that we are genuinely have. So
yeah, our observations in the moment, actually.
Yes, so true. So today we want to start with talking about just how times are changing, and on so many different levels, this is working out in different ways. And in particular, I feel like there's a great sorting out that's happening with the synergies in your life, the energetic synergies. And that is, today we're going to start with just the synergies between people.
Yeah.
And just because things were synergistic at one time doesn't mean that they're synergistic now. I mean, there's the general cycles, but I feel like this in particular has to do with just kind of the rarefied energy field we're in right now, where things are just clarifying. We're seeing people differently. We're having different experiences. People are coming into our lives in unexpected ways, and maybe even going out of our lives in unexpected ways. So that's what I kind of want to start with on that, Maurice. And you actually really brought the topic up, and I think it's just perfect.
Well, we were talking, geez, we had a hard time getting connected up today with the audio between us. You finally figured out what was going on and fixed it. Good for you. Thank you. But somehow or other, I said, I've noticed, I said, and this is all over the place. It's not just one or two people. I obviously interact with a lot of people, especially on Facebook. I have good friends. Let's put it that way. I have good friends. I don't just take everybody. I'm not looking for numbers. I'm looking for communication. People I can actually talk with, and they offer back a conversation back. And anyway, I enjoy Facebook for that reason. And in the process, I've noticed that the way things used to be done aren't being done so much anymore, at least amongst the people I interact with. It may be the same for 90% or 80% or 70% of the world's population, but there's a sizable number of us that are noticing that things are changing. And I think the point I started out with is you made the woman we talked with, Jesus, it's almost a month ago now, Kestrel, how you and her got along. And I said, I said it used to be that when you met somebody initially, it was always the exterior. Who is this person? And they say, well, I'm married, I got kids, or I'm not married and I don't have kids, or I'm a man and this is what I do for a living. Introducing yourself by describing your external world they're coming from. Now, I notice anyway, people, at least for me, and I know for you, and I know for a bunch of other people too, You don't need all of that stuff. In fact, that isn't what you really respond to. You respond to what you called synergy. I called it energy, but it's the same. We're talking about the same thing. It's as if we recognize each other non-verbally almost first. I don't interact with as many people as you do. Obviously, we're in different life situations, but the ones that I do manage to interact with, and as old as I am, I actually do interact with a lot of people, much younger than myself, to be honest with you. But the point is, I can almost feel them before I even talk to them. And I know you can too. And I think it's just not us two in the whole freaking world. I think there's a whole bunch of us that are actually doing versions of the same thing. And I just wanted to make it, out loud and in English. So to let others out that are listening know, hey, you're not the only one, and this is something that's different. It didn't used to be that way. I'm telling you.
It's not. I think it's a sign of the times, Maurice. So things are really changing. And remember my saying that you loved. I don't know where I got it from. I didn't make it up. But we are human beings, not doing.
Yes,
and I think we're moving into our human beingness. And so it's like that we're getting more savvy to the energy patterns and how that's more important.
Mm-hmm.
As a person's essence, who they are, really inside, not the outer trappings of what a person does. That where people are seeing through that. And I think it's just a sign of maybe the spiritual evolution of humanity. Maybe it's just what's available now that wasn't available later, but it doesn't really matter why that's so. What's important is that it's exciting that this is what's happening. It's exciting that people are starting to see above the illusion of things. I mean, how many people have you met in your life, Maurice, that, make a lot of money, or very beautiful, or very handsome, and seem to have these outward trappings like, oh, that's what media or Hollywood or advertising would say is like a really cool, great person. But underneath it, there's vacancy, there's distortion, corruption. I mean, Hollywood's such a great example about that. All these beautiful, successful people. Well, now we're starting to see just how unbeautiful some of them are, how really sick and depraved some of it is.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Oh boy, that's a whole other topic. But, people, we're starting to see that it's not what you do. It's not what you bring to the table in the world of form.
Yep.
It's what we bring to the table of our essence and our being. And
That's so true. It's so true. Now I realize that a lot of people are not floating in that world that we interact with. But we don't hate them for it, or any of that. We just discern the difference, and we're attracted to people like ourselves, so to speak. Like we're some kind of special. I don't know. There's many people would say, "Oh, we're special because we do this, that, and the other thing." I don't even know if it's that. I just think different is the right word. The more peaceable way of describing it. They're just different. And
yeah, I think you got to be careful with the word special, because what comes to my mind is with as far as like religions go, like we're the special ones, we're the chosen ones because we believe XYZ, and XYZ is the thing. So that's like the specialness. Like we're all special, but we're all built very differently, right? We're all built completely differently, and it's finding the birds of feather, the ones you want to flock together with.
That's the thing about it. It's that so many people are finding birds of a feather. Good way of expressing it. That's real easy to understand across the board, but it's true. It's by a different means. We're feeling it first, and then we engage and we find out our feelings are accurate. We learn, and we're trusting our feelings more and more as we go in that regard, and we actually are trusting it as accurate. That's that inner knowing going on. It's a version of it anyway. It isn't just one thing. It's a whole bunch of things. And
it is.
And that's another thing too. A lot of old relationships I do notice are how's the right way to say it? They're evaporating. How about that? That's neutral. They're evaporating almost in front of our eyes, and some of them we're involved in. It's really weird. Normally, people, they stick together out of habit, if nothing else. and for all
Right.
kinds of external reasons. Well, what would my mother think? What would my dad think? What would my, whatever that's important, where you feel like you have to live up to a certain standard of somebody else. It
Mhm.
just isn't working anymore like it used to.
I think there's also the comfort level with that too, Maurice, is sometimes, the older we've been involved with, there's something comfortable about it. And so we want to stay in it. I mean, it's the big, four-letter word that's not four letters, but change, it's the scary, scary thing for a lot of people. But I think it's the alternative nowadays, at least for me, is of not changing. The fear or the comfort of staying in something and not changing is offset by the excitement or the anticipation or the drive for what you're called to be or do, and let go of the old. You know what I mean? It's maybe the weight before, you could balance that out when it was more a materialistic world and things were more based on the appearance of things. But now that they're not, like, the energies are either tolerable or they're intolerable, at a fundamental level.
Right, right. As you were talking, a thought occurred. We actually read poetry in high school when I was going through high school. I think it was mostly in the 11th grade, but we had a whole semester of English where we listened, or we read and discussed in class poets, late 1800s, early 1900s poets, and also authors. The transcendentalists, Emerson, Thoreau, those kinds of people. But to get to the point, there was a line from one of the poets. I could look them up and be able to quote them. I just remember the line, and I got a mental image of the poet anyway. Most men live lives of quiet desperation. Mm. It's so apt to what you're saying and what I'm pointing at. People stay in that because they, rather than branch out into the unknown, they would prefer the life of quiet desperation. It's a way through. It's a way I have to say most people endure because it's more difficult not to in their mind's eye. But
right,
what's happening now is there's a lot of people that are saying, no, that's not sufficient anymore. I will take the unknown. When a door, there's another little one-liner. When a door closes, that means that another door opens. This time, people are not afraid of that opening door. They're saying, I'm going to try it. And no, I don't know what it's going to be, but I think, I trust, whatever, I'm going through that freaking door. And actually, if you look back on your life, no matter how old you are, and most people in here have got a couple of years under their belt, you're still here. And you've had lots of changes in your life along the way. A lot of people, I don't really think about it all that much, but when I do try to think about it, holy shit, I've done so many things, I can't even name them all anymore. I mean, where, back in when I was growing up, for instance, a guy, he would get a job and stay there and get his 50-year watch. That doesn't happen anymore. And that didn't happen in my life.
That does not happen anymore at all. It's a huge different mindset. And I know with a lot of employers, they have challenges with the younger generations in this lack of loyalty where, they're kicking the tires. I'm going to experience this. Now I want to experience that. And it's a different, having managed a law firm a little while back for a few years, that, in dealing with young employees, it was a whole different way of communicating because they're built very differently, from my generation. And it's, so you just have to really adjust to it because those days are gone, Maurice, they are really gone. And I can't say that's a bad or a good thing. It's just a thing, right?
Well, this is a growing. Here we go, get a little bit new agey on you here, but this is a growing, expanding awareness level that's going on in this world. It's not static. And of course, the system wants to keep it as static as they can because they were relatively successful at controlling things when it was like that. Things are changing, and they've got to change to stay ahead of the game, with all of their genius think tanks and and psychologists running around, telling you what human nature is and how you can maneuver it and control it and all that kind of thing. They're always a step behind. They're always a step behind. They're good for the masses. The non.
Well, it's based on the world of form once again.
There you go.
The illusion, they're delusioned by the illusion, and it's
Good.
just that's just you're never going to hit ground zero, and you're not going to be in sync with what's happening when you're like that. And that's a problem with all of our institutions, right? They are just grounded in a world of form, and this is what we see, and this is how it's working out, because this is where things can be controlled. You fool people into believing they're flesh and blood,
Yep.
that they're going to die and that's it. And there's just so much, oh my God, there's just all this importance in this life, where this life is important, but in a different way, and so you've got this control pattern, and you start throwing in religion and original sin and all that crap, then you've got a super control pattern.
Well,
But
that's a materialistic point of view, and that is a philosophy, by the way. A legitimate philosophy in the world's been around for over 100 years. Probably, I don't know how long really, but at least over 100 years, probably 150. Point being, the one liner to encapsulate all of that is, he who dies with the most toys wins. That is so shallow and so surface level, but that describes what we see portrayed as all of these beautiful people, by a Hollywood, or powerful people by, military people with stuff, and stuff on their chests, and politicians and rich people, that kind of thing, with big boats and 10 airplanes, Bill Gates type stuff.
yeah,
Or
they really made it. They're the successful ones. And the same holds true with nations, right, Maurice? Is that a country that the more territory they have, the more natural resources they have, that then they are a successful country. And it's this grab for things at the material realm,
right,
at
yeah,
that level, this grab for it. And therefore that reflects that I've mastered the game of life.
yeah,
I've mastered like what's going on. But that is not the game of life. That
right.
is not mastery, as we know. That's
The
the
reality,
opposite. That's manipulation. That's
absolutely.
complete
The reality
manipulation.
is that, and the people that you and I are me in particular, but you're right where they're with me, that we're talking about, the ones that are noticing, the external world isn't the right one to be, that isn't predominant in our lives anymore. Yes, it's still there, but in this relationship, people with new people, or even people that you've got in your life, you're not responding so much to the external anymore, the surface world, the material world. There's something going on that you're tapped into energetically, and you ahead of time, and then you fill in the blanks with the material, and interact with each other on the material level, but it's an energetic thing. And I honestly do think something has happened amongst the human population, in a maybe in a small way, I guess, but even a small way is better than no way, of elevating our ability to perceive things.
Yeah. Some people use the phrase the veil is thinning.
Yeah,
There's all kinds of little phrases around it. It doesn't really matter what it is. You can get all, new agey, magical, mystical about it, but there is something palpable that's changed right now, and people are being able to see things more clearly. I mean, I think that's no matter what it is, we could all agree on that we're kind of coming into a different range, whether it's humanity evolving, which I'm not sure. I kind of hesitate with that because we really don't have a true idea of our history and what real civilizations were in the past, and how evolved they were.
no,
That's all, you know, is all up in the air. What we do know is that everything pretty much across the board we've been told is a big fat lie.
well,
So I don't, anymore I'm thinking like, where everybody's so focused on, oh, this is such, crazy time, and the regime changes and the wars and politics and cataclysmic things, and just all this stuff is like, oh my God, this is the end of times. Where I do feel we're coming into certain end of the certain cycle and maybe a new beginning. But how many of those have happened in the past? How many people sat there and chat it, maybe on another version of Zoom, who knows, but chat it. And we're saying like, this is the end. This is, like, everything's changed, politics, and, there's war, we're being invaded, and we know so much, and we're connected to the stars, whatever those are. And we're, who knows, like what the other people, our predecessors or our previous incarnations, how advanced we were. I mean, does that make sense?
It
We
does.
think we're
But
so advanced right now, but
well, we don't really know. We don't
we don't.
really know. And the so-called experts, most of them are just mouthpieces for the whoever's paying them the most. That's literally true, by the way.
Oh my God, it's so funny. I got to pull this up. I think I have it on my computer. Jason did an incredible um, uh, live event yesterday, and he was talking about Dunning-Krugers and soul suckers. And have you ever heard of Dunning-Kruger?
Nope.
Okay, I got to read. I've never heard of this before, but let me read you it. The Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias that occurs when people overestimate their abilities or knowledge in a specific area. It's caused by lack of self-awareness, which prevents people from accurately assessing their own skills. And it's that, and then he had another one that he spoke about, and I wrote it down. I don't know if I got where I wrote it down, but he's talking about just the different types of monsters.
Oh,
Basically, there's the mouthpieces that are going around and amplifying a message that, people think that they are really, they're spot on with something, and they've got the truth, and they're completely manipulated with it. But anyways, it just kind of went off a little bit on that. But it's I think right now the big key thing is a level of humbleness that's required, and openness. And for me, one of the main things that I'm working with in my life is flow. You
absolutely
know,
good. Yeah.
and that is, for me, this is like the ultimate in where we are right now, is to recognize where the flow is moving through us and how it's wanting to move us. And it may be right out of those relationships, it may be right out of that workplace, it may be right out of, family situations. I don't know. It's just, where's the flow taking you in your life, and to trust that. That's an invisible thing. It has nothing to do with the world of form, with what we see with our eyes and what people present, or what, the workplace was, or, friendships or whatever. Nothing at that level. We've got to look at how things are actually flowing in our life. If we have to push the energy, if it's becoming stuck, well, find where the flow is, and maybe it'll just take you around those stuck places, or maybe it'll take you off somewhere else. But it's really trusting the natural flow. And I'm babbling on here, but the
No,
flow
you're
for me
not.
is connected with my higher self. It's connected with the immortal within. And when I connect to that, and I get my instruction from a bigger viewpoint of this life in this world, and work in harmony with that, it's all about flow. And it's got to be, this humbleness to accept direction, from your higher self, and that direction for me is always spoken and whispered through intuition and through flow. And don't fight it just to have something, because it's not going to be worth having if you have to, if there's a fight for it. It's not worth having. You're not maybe meant to have that, whatever that is. If it's not flowing there, it's not flowing. That's fine. Where is the flow happening?
Well, our normal, again, we're right in the middle of a transition. One way or another, we're in the middle of a transition here from what we've known most of our, if not all of our lives, up until relatively recently, was a way of beingness that no longer fits us.
Mm-hmm.
And this new way of beingness is new to us, and a lot of us are experimenting with it. It depends how long, and how diligently you actually look at it. And none of us are, we're not walking with our feet 4 inches off the ground or walking across water, none of that stuff. So we're still kind of a mix. We got the old ways ingrained within us, and this new way of being is new to us, but we're not rejecting it or walking away from it. We're saying this could possibly work. And the more we acknowledge and go with that, the flow, if you will, the more we find that it freaking works. It works better. A lot of tension, internal tension, is taken away by it because you're not bothered by things that used to bother you. You it's okay. And here
Yeah.
I am, and the more you do that, the more it works for you. That's growing in the flow, if you will. Because
It is, but you got to really accept the fact that, Maurice, if you have a mind model that the world is about, incarnated is about suffering, and it's about, angst, and that it's an evil world, and it's all these bad things. Well, sure enough, that is exactly what you're going to experience. But I'm telling you what, there's nothing written in stone about what this world is going to be. It's going to be what you want it to be. And for me, it can be heaven on earth. I can integrate my higher self with this mortal being, and I can experience all the fulfillment and all the joys and all the wonderful challenges and inspirations and creating incredible things. And but it's got to be you got to be in that flow and be willing to go with it, especially as it's maybe undoing past things or undoing what was set before. We have to allow that to maybe dissipate, disintegrate, pull apart so things can be reformed in your life in a way that's more accurate to what your joy would be. I don't believe that I'm here to suffer. I'm not going to suffer. I don't suffer. My life is right in the midst of tremendous changes and growth and stuff. And there's difficult things that I've got to let go of, and there's exciting things that I want to embrace. And you know what? I'm as human as everybody else, and maybe talking about all this stuff there, but man, my feet hit the road. I walk right on the planet. I'm a human, you're a human. We're all learning skills at various levels, but we're learning that skill of what do you say, energetic incorporation of the immortal within.
you said something that caused me to recall, and it turned out it was Kestrel that made the comment a couple 3 or 4 weeks ago. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is, what did she say? A choice?
Yeah, basically that. Suffering's a choice.
I know she would, if I was to ask her what she said, it'd be different, but it's effectively that. Suffering is something you impose upon yourself. Pain, that's external, and pain goes away eventually. It hurts, but it goes away. Suffering is something you hold on to internally.
I mean, I remember last year I fell and I broke this arm, like a really bad broken, dislocated, and 7 stinking months of intense physical therapy to overcome it. Oh, that was painful. That was one of the most painful things ever. No surgery, nothing. They just said 3 weeks, it'll start to knit together. But in the meantime, I have an arm moving around. That was no fun. That was painful.
Yeah. I've dislocated my shoulder several times, and no, it's not fun at all.
Oh my God, bones rubbing against bones is not a pleasant thing. But did I have to suffer through it? That was a choice. I worked hard. It wasn't fun. Believe me, it was not fun, but I worked. I did what I needed to do for it. And I kept making videos, and I kept moving my life forward,
Right. There's another little point too. I'm going to drop some wisdom on you, if you will. Most people won't accept this as reality, but I do. And I firmly go by this. You're not separate from your higher self, if you will, to describe what that is. We think we are. We're taught we are. We're these weak little human beings running around being victimized by the bigger, greater world of all kinds of things going on around us, bigger, stronger, more powerful than we are. But ultimately, part of that life growth thing is to realize that no, you are your higher spirit in human form, though, with limitations. And part of this whole journey is to realize that and accept the reality of that. And as you do, a lot of these frustrations, these negative things that would normally be expected to upset you and keep you tied in knots internally for a long period of time and dancing to the tune of somebody else, they go away. And it isn't because I got to do this to get that, it happens. It just falls away.
That, Maurice, that is exactly my message. I've done quite a few videos that really talk about, even one I diagrammed out the whole thing where people think, here's the human and then here's the higher self.
Yeah.
And I got my little light within me and I got to keep nourishing and growing and fanning that little light because it's going to grow stronger. And as it grows strong enough, it'll connect to the higher one. But that's not how it's designed. It's designed more, to put it in diagram form. You take a big circle, that's your higher self. Within that circle is the human being. We're a projection of that consciousness. We are connected. We can't not be connected. Even when you die, you're connected. We are the offshoot of our higher self. So it's not finding that connection. It's not discovering who you are. It's not like say, some big mystery of this thing happening. We just have to allow. That's my other big word, flow and allow. Allow the immortal within. I shouldn't be more within, the immortal without. We are the human within. We're the human within the immortal. And our job is just to let that in, as opposed to having all these, habits, these emotions and these thoughts that create a barricade, and that's what the world has been is. And our current situation, who knows about the past, but is really designed and trying to keep this and a barrier between that knowing so that we can't reconnect with the true power. We have immense power available to us, immense power. We have an immortal available to us because we are the immortal. We are not the fullness of it, but we are the offspring of it. And
well, we are in human form, whatever that is. And it does have limitations, but within those limitations, it's still possible to get to the point where you see and realize and feel it. Yeah. And in the process, your life becomes different. And I will say, in a very peaceable, positive way, I will offer that to the people listening. It becomes peaceable and positive, no matter what happens around you, because you have this inner sense of security, because you are secure. But if you only define yourself as this 3D human being, you're never secure in this world. Something's always going to get you some kind of way, and you're always defending yourself against attack, or something.
And you're always going to feel separated. There's always going to be a sense of separation, and in the offspring of that sense of separation is that's like soul sickness. You'll never be content with everything. You're always searching. When we say people have a hole in their soul, that's what it is. There's a lack of connection there. And no matter what happens, no matter how much money you have, how much surgery you have to be beautiful, how much natural gifts you have, it doesn't matter because it'll be hollow, because there's nothing that fills it. It's not imbued with the spirit and the essences of who you really are. So it's, that's just a complete dead end street.
The funny thing is, some people who know that. Yeah. And it's so nice to be around them. It is. And we don't sit there and preach to each other. We just do things naturally.
And it's so true. Yeah, Maurice, I was just thinking too, I have like friends that I have errant friends and I have friends that aren't at all. And I love them all dearly and equally. And I find incredible joy in their companionship. And each one's a different kind of companionship. But I find a genuineness in the non-errant, let's say, for lack of a better word, community, of those friends. I say I love them dearly. And, what I always try to be is I'm just the shining light, the example of love, of graciousness, of kindness, of forgiveness, all the things that we believe in that are not even just believe in, all the things that we know is true of our divine self incarnate, and just be that example.
That's part of what that divine self, if you will, the higher self is another way of saying it. I've used it a couple of times. That is what it is naturally. And that's you showing through you as you. When you allow that to become your main kind of point of view, that's growth that's where you are the higher self in human form, and you're allowing it to happen. You're going, and that's sometimes I call that being in the flow, but you call it allowing it. It's the same thing. The
Mhm.
more you do that, the more it manifests as such, and that is the way that you feel best inside. Well, that's who you are inside.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
That's stronger than all of that freaking evil that seems to prevail everywhere we look. Yeah, we see plenty of examples, but every manifestation of that evil is, I'll say it strongly, is some fucked up person that doesn't have their shit together. Now that's pretty strong, that's pretty basic, and I do have a version of me that expresses himself that way. So there too.
well, I do too, Maurice. I just, and as I grow to more and more the rebel crone, the more outspoken I am about those kind of things. And, it is an effed up world,
It is.
big time, you
Well,
know?
yeah. Yeah, but to be able to plow through that from beginning to end is and succeed, relatively speaking, succeed. Okay, that's a big deal. Apparently, to be that freaking separated starting out and to come to some kind of an accommodation where we can speak in terms like we're talking today, that's not some small task because there's all kinds of barriers that have been set up from the cradle on, starting with the family and then expanding out to the extended family and then expanding out into the world, the larger world at large. It's all set up to keep you not expanding, and yet somehow or other the inner strength has allowed you to get to the point where you can just talk like this.
Yeah.
Well, and talking like we're talking from human, I'm talking from experience, and I know you are as well. And you know what? Like I said, we're not the only two people in the world that see it this way by a long shot.
Not by a long shot. And there's people that see it, they see different expansions of it in this area, some expansions in this area. And it's all like, it's so wonderful. I mean, I love being around people that add something to my life. And even if it's a different view than my view, it's great. I love that. I find it so enriching, because we all have a different perspective. We're built differently. There isn't one road, like there isn't like the path, like this is the path to the moon, right? We talk about the finger pointing to the moon.
Yeah.
That finger pointing to the moon is pointing from all different directions based on that person. And I don't even want to say anymore what they come here to learn, but what they've come here to experience and to overcome. And I mean, I think it's very specific for each of us. And our way out of that, we find our truth or a pathway that works for us. Is it the ultimate pathway? No, it's your pathway. It's my pathway.
Yeah.
And then we find ones that resonate with us. It's such a joy, like you and I talking. There's such a beautiful synergy of it, and we've had very different life experiences, but
Absolutely.
have they been that different in essence,
Well,
in
no,
essence,
probably not. But they,
I assume not. And it's always such a joy to find people that understand your finger pointing to the moon and your pathway, can add to it, can honor it, and even, understand that they have a very similar one. And the people that don't, well, I mean, that this is the challenge. This is what the whole religious thing, and it doesn't just go beyond, I mean, it goes way beyond religion. It's divide and conquer. Is our differences is what separates us.
yeah,
No, differences don't separate us. It's just different. Maybe that you don't want to be with that or commune with that over there. That's a very different vibration. It does not make it wrong. Even we think of some of the most insidious stuff going on, those are spirits, those are immortals that projected in a human, project into a human avatar and are having a very specific experience. Is it going great for them? Maybe they're having a lot more pain than I would want to have or you would want to have, but they're
right.
still incarnate, they're still an immortal projected in. Now, NCPs, all that, I don't want to get into that because for me, that's a hornet's nest of permission slips to behave badly towards others and discounting somebody when you don't have any right to.
I
You
agree
know,
there 100%. I'm familiar with that NPC thing as well, and it may be true or it may not be true. And you know what? I don't treat people as if they are. I treat them as if they're humans, like you're describing, whether they are or they're not. It
Ain't
doesn't.
my problem, you
It is
know?
not my problem. But in reflecting who I am, that I have control over to a degree. At least I think I have control over it. I don't even know that anymore. But I would say, from my personal life experience, it works better than anything else I've tried, and I like it. And it
Yeah.
seems the feedback I get, at least in the interactions, always seems to be good. It seems to have a moderating, a pleasing, a pleasant effect upon whoever I'm interacting with.
And it's not people pleasing, Maureen. It's not about that at all, because it's not about what comes back out there. It's what exudes from within here, and I find it doesn't matter how, if it's accepted or not, and it doesn't matter who the person is, what they've done, how they believe, or anything. It's not my, this is one of my other premises, is that it's not my job to control the flow of love coming through me, because that's the energy is love. That's the source. It gets distorted coming down here. But if we want to connect more closely to our higher self, to the immortal within, we've got to tap into the love vibration, because that's the true vibration.
I agree.
And as we tap into that, we don't have, it's not my responsibility or my right to say, you're less worthy of the love that's coming through me. And, so therefore I'm going to cut it off from you. Now, maybe it'd be somebody like, I still will shine love, but you aren't going to be in my life because you're toxic and you're not a good influence.
Right.
It's not like everybody's accepted in, because I've got my barrier there of discernment of the world, but I still don't judge. I still have love available for them, and I think this is a huge thing. And I know you exude that kind of thing, Maurice, and I feel like I do too. And I hope that I'm able to at this point in life. I feel
You
like I
should
made
know
a
it by now. You do that. That is
thank
who
you.
you are.
It
And
is. It is genuinely who I am. Is
that
that, and it's
and when you're consciously aware of it, it's not like, oh, this is I got to do it this way or that way or the other way. You just do it naturally and you let it flow and it works.
exactly, exactly. It's
It's
just
almost
just letting that flow. That is my job. My job is to be accepting and be loving and be kind. And that doesn't mean I'm going to take on anybody's stuff and everybody's stuff. I mean, I don't take anything on out there. I'm taking on what's in here and getting
it's
that right. And so we become a safe haven.
oh
I
boy.
think a lot of people in the world, especially coming up now, I think I'm going to post this Christmas morning, coming up on Christmas Day, and the time with all the relatives and stuff gathering together, that it is for a lot of people, it's a time of a lot of tension, a lot of drama, a lot of challenges. And just know that the way through that for you is just step back and just exude kindness towards each other. Don't engage in the things. You don't have to engage in the political conversation. You don't have to engage in whatever hot buttons are out there. But what you can do is you could be a safe place for people caught up in all that to just rest and be. It's like, I'm going to go over and have a conversation with that Maurice, because everybody's fighting over there about that. And I can just be with Maurice and I feel seen. I feel loved. I feel like I can relax. I feel like I can rest.
Well,
You know,
it's funny. David mentioned it, and in a way, I've always known it. I refer to this place as an oasis. Literally, this. I've got a mobile home lot here in Pensacola. It's a little bigger than most of them, and it's almost like a house, but not quite. Anyway, for me, it's perfect. But I've had people stay with me. David's been here for a while, but I've had other people stay here for shorter periods of time, but more than a day or two. And I he says you're an Oasis manager or not manager. He he's
provider,
no
provider.
he said master. I said, well, I don't know if I'm a master at anything, but I do know one thing. This is an oasis. You come into my home and that's what you get. You get acceptance, you get tolerance, and you get treated well.
Exactly. I just had some out of town guests unexpected stop here for a couple of days, and they were so kind to really reflect back to me the beautiful energy of my home, and how it felt so good. And it was a place for them to really rest and relax and be and to be, I love being a gracious host and cooking and caring for people and just, having that place of rest for them. And you've been to my house, so
I have. Yeah,
yeah, it is a beautiful Santa Fe home,
it is.
old double brick adobe, all this stuff with it, but it's more than that. It's definitely it's more than that. And that for me is just the highest of compliment when somebody can say that to me and reflect it back, see it and appreciate it. Because, what else is there to do in life? Has what else is there except to provide a safe haven for the tortured souls to come in and just take a pause a minute and have somebody refer back to them their value, their intrinsic value and their intrinsic rights as a human, being loved and honored in that way. As long as they're honorable, if somebody's not honorable in my house, they wouldn't even be attracted to coming over. I don't attract that energy in my life. It's not even a worry on my part. They get repelled. No, they don't even get close.
It works that way too, and that's the universe, if you will, working around you to set your life path up for you that you don't see happening. That part is going on as well. I
It's
cannot
true.
point to specific. No, I can't, but I know what's going on. We find ourselves in circumstances that are pre-planned for us an awful lot, and we don't see it coming, and we think we don't know. Most of the time, we don't think how we got here until after the fact. Then we go over what we can remember of what led up to it and shit, and we try to build a story around it. But that's all
It's
it's just
it,
there.
it is just there. And I know Jason from Our Cakes will talk a lot about, his philosophy on the creative process and manifestation, putting things out there he's saying to the field. I may say, put it on the altar of your being, have your request, put it out there however you want to call it, and then let go of it. You know what I mean? And then let go and then just trust that things are gonna come around. It may not be exactly how you look, and it doesn't matter because it's that feeling that your soul's craving for, because that's who you are and that's what's rightfully meant to manifest in your life.
Yep.
We just got to get out of the way and just let it happen in the right way it's meant to happen. Because sometimes there's stepping stones. Sometimes you meet people and they, oh, this is like the group, and I love this is it, but they work for a time and then they're stepping stone because of the growth I had in this, and now I can go there and there's something else, that's bigger and better and more accurate for me. But I've been trusting that. Once again, is trusting, or first knowing that you are surrounded, you are a product of the oversoul, of the immortal, of the higher self. You're a product of that. You're never disconnected from it. Even when the silver cord of being for this avatar is cut and you go back home, so to speak, you're still not disconnected. You can never be disconnected from the truth of who you are. So we have to always remember that and trust in that, know that, and then just trust the flow when you commune at that level. Trusting the flow is going to bring you about the things that are going to feed your soul. The right kinds of relationships, the right friendships, the right loves, the right work, the right creative outlets. All of that it's going to come to you if you allow it to come in. So there's my spiel. There's my big Christmas spiel right there.
Yeah, and I can't argue with any of it. So, of course, I don't argue with you much anyway. So,
We don't. I don't think there's ever been a thing where it's like, no, Maurice, you're wrong on that. I don't think, we've never had a moment of that. I don't think.
same here because we talk the same language. Uh,
Yeah.
we do. We say it differently, one from the other. You express your way, I express my way, but we're saying the same thing from two different points of view. Diversity, and that is the spice of life. It's like while you were talking, I was thinking I had an aunt, my mother's sister, that married into a really deep Italian family in Detroit, Michigan, and this is back in the 40s, which is a long time ago, and the world was different back then, and all that kind of stuff. But she would make spaghetti. She wouldn't get it out of a can or a jar or something as a sauce and pour it in and heat it up. No, she cut all those things up she put in there, peppers and onions and God knows what else, and tomato sauce and all of that. I think she even ground the tomatoes. I'm not sure about that, but it would be a 2 day process of that stuff cooking on the stove. And you talk about aromas and flavor when it finally got. There's nothing today anywhere that can come close to the way that stuff was. But that was made. That was made with not just labor, it was made with love. It literally was. And that somehow has a flavor as well. You don't taste it with your tongue, but you sure as hell feel it with your soul or your internal. You do, you feel it. And
You do. Oh my God. I love that, Maurice, because I was raised by a mother that was born and raised in northern Italy.
oh boy.
And one of her love languages was cooking. And she
Yeah.
did make her pasta sauce or her lasagna sauce by scratch. And they would, she didn't grind the tomatoes herself, but she made it by scratch and it would be simmering all day and filling the house up. And she had, I mean, it was just cooking like I say, was her love language. Any meal was always made with love and it was presented with love. It was never thrown on the plate. It was specific plates chosen, and then there'd be the little thing and this, and it'd be set a certain way. And you always felt the love and the care, and you felt honored that somebody was presenting like this beautiful dish for you that was, visually beautiful and then tasted so good. And it was soul filling. And that's one of my love language. I love to cook for people. You had a meal here at the house that I made for you and some of the folks from Archaics a year or so ago. And that's like I don't love cooking all the time, but I love spoiling people, because I feel like through our senses, it does feed the soul. And food in particular can be nourishing on so many different levels.
Absolutely true. Yep. Yep. I was fortunate. My wife Judy, she passed in 2010, but she had that in her. She was from New England of all places, and I think Irish. No, English. No, she was English, I suppose. Her heritage, anyway. But she knew how to cook, and she did it with that. I mean, when I'd have a meal with her, she wouldn't where she could. She baked bread. We didn't buy store-bought bread. She baked it herself. You talk about good. Holy mackerel. There's so but that at least I got to experience that with her and it was wonderful. And I appreciated that she did that. She did it well, she'd have to be telling you why she did what she did. But from my point of view, I sure as hell appreciated it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
And it's hometown, like you people I've talked to that have spent time in Europe, and they're like, oh, the French or the Italians, and it's crazy how they eat and they don't gain weight. Okay, they do smoke a lot of cigarettes and drink a lot of espressos, but they don't gain weight, and they have a lot of butter and cheeses and breads and all the things that our stupid country is like, no, that's not good for you. But the difference is it's not some mass baked bread that's filled with all kinds of crap in it, is that they go every day. They go down to the local market and they get a loaf of fresh made bread, fresh churned butter, the meat from the meat lockers. They get like fresh stuff done every day. I had my little nephew from Italy come visit me a few years back, and it was just every day he would go down and want to go to the local bakery and just get his breads. I mean, that was part of the pattern. So there's something to be said because it's fresh things that's handmade. It's the
Agreed.
hand making it that imbues it with, I think, that love and spirit, so to speak. That
Yeah,
help.
society does its damnedest to pull everybody away from that. One way
Ah,
one way or another, they keep you occupied, busy. You don't have time to do those kinds of things anymore. But I'll tell you what, it was still messed up in the 40s. Don't get me wrong. It was not some glorious, wonderful period of time that never is going to be recreated or anything like that. There was plenty of messed up things going on in the 40s. I go down a long list of those, but I'm not going to. But there was still what you and I are talking about. That old world, it's closer to the earth is what it is.
yeah.
And that's part of being a human too, being grounded. We can't always just be off in space and not in the real world that we're walking around in. We have to be grounded. But there's a whole story about Mother Earth, that goes on. The
Oh
spirit,
my,
is it real as such? Maybe not as it's described in the stories, but there is something about being connected with the spirit as expressed or tried to be expressed in various cultures, of the truth and the wonderfulness and the of what mother, which is the divine feminine. And I'm telling you, the divine feminine is freaking beautiful. It literally is. But what seems, I will offer this though, what I notice a lot, especially among the women, it's you guys keep yourselves secret from men. And it bothers me somewhat. I understand it, but it bothers me some, because it would be nice to be included in some of the conversations, but generally speaking, we don't get included. We get excluded, like we're not worthy. I get that feeling, as if we're
huh.
not worthy of being in your presence when you're doing your woman stuff. And I think that's unfair. I do.
I appreciate you saying that, Maurice. That I got to think about that a little bit. Like from my perspective as a woman and having female friends, and I've got several groups that we do things together, specifically female friends and men, and none of them men are included in it. And I think the experience for so many women, if I may make a generalization there, ladies, excuse me if I don't hit you accurately, but from my experience, I've just seen that there is, for so many men, I think you're exception of this, Maurice, that most men don't fit into a group of women because it's like you have this spirit, this energy, this flow of feeling and just excitement and just emotion from women. And then you get a man walks in, it's like, boom, and it's just kind of like it just is the turd in the party punch bowl. It
No, I can see that.
That's a bad analogy. I'm so sorry. But it
I
doesn't
can
like
see how
spoils
that
it.
works. I do, and I agree, and that's generally what it is.
I'm
Again, that's
so sorry. That was like really crude, but I'm not minimizing because I think you're very different. And once in a while, I'll meet a man that's very different that could flow into that space and be part of one of the women and hold their own. I've got a dear friend of mine here, and her husband is so like that. And she goes home and tells him what we've been discussing and stuff. And he's like, oh, I know he just like so wants to be there because he just wants to share in that, and he loves it. And he's like a very, what can I say? He's a very juicy man. Juicy in that he has emotions and he's very sensual and just a wonderful way that he's just, for women, it's like, oh, it's like so nice. And energy like that is like great coming, can come into those circles. And I'm sure it's just like with men. I mean, think about this, Maurice. You get a group of the typical guys together and they're having their guy conversations, their guy whatnots, and then you bring a woman in and it changes it dramatically, right?
absolutely it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Like I
You
said,
just have, I think you're just wired more, excuse me. I think you're just wired at a very different level and sometimes a deeper level that some of the going ons with more so you say enlightened women and how fun we have together. And you know a bunch of the women that I'm talking about, that you would fit in beautifully with them and you would always be welcome because you would fit in with the flow.
pretty much,
Most
pretty much.
most men would not fit into that. It would be a different kind of thing. It wouldn't be a bad thing, but it would just be a different thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's not done out of secrecy. It's not done out of just isolating and this is the women's club and you don't know the secret handshake, so you don't get inside. It's kind of women long for, and it's so important for women to have and nurture this connection with each other. And instead of like the world's taught us to compete with each other. And you
Correct.
know this one, Maurice, like the women are brutal with each other because they're competing for the attention of men, especially younger women. They're
Yeah.
competing for the attention of men, and I'm the most sexual. Men are gonna be looking at me because I'm sexy and I'm this and I'm that, or and they're just clamoring for that attention. I think it really comes down to that. You get older women and they don't give a shit about that anymore. They don't. They're just, this is who I am, like it or not. And I don't have to put anything on for anybody. If I want to dress sexy, I'm doing it because that's what I want to do. And if I don't want to, I don't want to. And they
Right.
don't care about that out there. And I think those are the women you want to hang out with.
That's who I do hang out with. That's
You
all
do
that.
hang out with,
That's who I hang
exactly.
out with. Those kind of women. And boy, is it a pleasure. But the thing is, they don't. Well, I don't know. I'm not with them all the time at all. It's. But when I am with them, it's great because I add a flavor to it that the women don't have, and somehow or other it manages to fit.
Yeah. Well, we will organize some kind of get together at some point in time, and I think you got to be with us because we would love having you around. It would be really, really fun. Without it, I feel like your presence and things wouldn't change the dynamics, and that's very unique to you. It wouldn't change we would, we get together and I feel like we're all like errands, we're all, really savvy to what's going on and, mature women, and we can be as crude as any man, and we can be, I mean, we just say it like it is. And I love that about mature women, and there's never any drama amongst us. We may have different opinions on things, but we always just have this beautiful flow together. And yes, I agree, you would flow right in. So we'll look at opportunities of including Maurice. So
That probably will never happen. I mean, I don't know either. I don't know the future from 5 minutes from now, but
don't say that. That can absolutely happen. That's easy peasy. That's not a difficult thing. Not at all.
well,
Not at all. So,
anyway, I like I say, I notice it anyway. It kind of I understand it. I exactly what you said. I understand that. That is the way it works. But it just seems like, man, you guys are missing so much because there is such a thing as a positive masculine force that is beyond just standing at the walls and guarding against intruders. We're more than that.
right. Yes. Yes. Yeah, I agree with you that there's on both sides that there's some stereotypical things going on, archetypal things, but I think the archetypes aren't fully manifested. If I can explain this more, that the archetype of the male, the warrior aspect, the feminine, we're talking masculine, feminine, and they come into focus in each person in a blend. Like there's not a pure masculine, there's going to be some feminine mixed in. I think that's what makes you work with women so easily is there is a healthy feminineness in you, which doesn't take away from your masculine because you are a man. It doesn't take away from that. And like I have a very healthy masculine side of me, but I am pure woman. I mean, I am feminine as they come, yet I've got a strong masculine aspect. So it's not that, you know. But I think that there's just a lack of education in everything, and there's like a lack of education between the sexes as far as what we are as each man and woman, and then how we work together. And we get into these stereotypes of like, oh, the feminine is like it kind of played out in the 50s and earlier, right? And the woman's at home and raising the kid, and the man's out there. And how well did that work? Like how right that's bold, that's BS. That didn't work for anybody.
Like I
And
said, the 50s and 40s were not perfect by a long shot. And I was actually around enough to notice it. And believe me, uh, it was highly unbalanced. Yes, the women got to stay home and do all of those woman things, cooking and cleaning and managing the kids, and the man went out and did his thing. They were too separated from one another. They were harmony wasn't there.
no,
An
it was
imperfect.
surface, right? It's like what you start the conversation with. It was just a materialistic view of roles. They weren't fully fleshed out
No.
in spirit or in the beingness of what men and women are. And yeah, thank God we're at a totally different place with that. I mean, that would have been the sentence of death for me. Growing up in the Midwest, I had a choice, and it was coming out of out of the 60s and women's lib stuff. I was kind of a product of that growing up really in the 70s
Mm-hmm.
and with high school and stuff like that, that there was kind of two choices at that time. You either go off to college and you go off into a career, or you stay home and you have children. And I looked around me and I saw the woman that stayed home and had children and how they gave up. I mean, that's the old model. I'm not saying that's what it has to be, but back then they totally gave up any work on themselves or any autonomy and any, evolution of who they were as people. I'm just a mom. I cook, I clean, I raise the kids, and I'm the transporter of kids and the feeder of the family. And to me, it was like, take me out now. I have a destiny to fulfill. I've got a purpose. And quite frankly, back then, it's like I would rather be the mistress than the wife because the wife looks very unappealing to me. I'm not going to do that role. Yeah, so it was just, and then the whole career thing, I mean, I was just different because I did start my own business was the first thing I did. So I never went involved in a corporate thing or not. So that was very fulfilling to me, but it was a very different than what a lot of people face with it. Nowadays you have women that really, they have all different kind of versions and iterations of both. But if you don't imbue it with the flow of your spirit, it doesn't matter how much money you're making. It doesn't matter how many kids and how happy your kids or how great a cook you are. And none of that matters if it's not imbued with the essence of who you are. And that's going to be you're happy with what you're doing because you're answering your call, you're in the flow of your life, and it's genuine to you. And then it's fulfilling.
And that's what I agree with you 100%. And I'll reiterate what I started out with pretty close to the beginning. I see examples, real physical examples. I have seen more than a few, actually quite a few people, men and women, that are coming to that understanding within themselves. And they recognize that they're still in a vast minority. They do, but that does not change who they are. They persist because they know for them it's the correct path, finally,
Yeah.
despite all of the externals that tell them otherwise. They know better.
I think I see a group of young people that are actually pursuing this and understanding it. And they're I don't know what percentage they are. I don't think they're the big percentage because you've got all the whole selfie generation, the Kardashian wannabe generations, the people that have really been groomed, has always, as in any era, that are groomed to follow what media is dictating how you should be and look and do and all that. So you put that aside because there's a huge part of that. And there's a huge part of social ineptness that has been fostered through these handy little things called cell phones and technology. And then you add in the recent pandemic stuff with it. And we've got a lot of young people very retarded as far as with their social skills. But having said that, I also see there's this group of young people that are into like farming and living off the land and going back to nature and connecting in, and young ladies that are like really getting into, worshiping the mother. Right or wrong, I think what that speaks to me of is that they're connecting in with nature and flow and health,
Yeah.
is true health on all these levels. And so I see that beautiful thing happening in there amongst all the other stuff going on.
I got a one liner for you that occurred. Trust yourself, but that self is not just the 3D person walking around. You've got to understand there's more to you. And I know the people listening to this already know it. And so it's not really news to them, but that is literally, you start doing that, you recognize that there is one and you are it, it's you. It changes your viewpoint of the world from where you're coming from. Doesn't matter what the world does anymore. You know how to function in the world. You've got social skills. You know how to, traverse the roads and do everything that the external world wants you to do, stay in line, but that's not you. And you know that. And in that knowing, it alters your path. It lightens the load massively, and you're not dependent upon the external world nearly as much as you used to think you had to be.
Now, I want to just clarify that a little bit more because I know you mean this, but just as far as using linguistics to
Okay.
clarify a concept, is that there, for me, there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. So we can like know things, but the knowing you're talking about is applied, is because you tested it out, you applied, and you say this all the time in our chats, is because you actually apply it in your life, then it becomes wisdom. You unlock the wisdom of it because you can know a lot of things and a lot of stuff that we're talking about today. People could go, oh, I know that. And they discount it. It's like, but do you really know it? Do you do that? Have you really like not even like mastered it because we're moving towards mastery, but have you really applied every chance you can? Have you integrated into your world? And if you haven't, then okay, it's interesting knowing it, but it's a whole other thing when you actually do it because it does work.
Yep.
Maybe that's what keeps some people from doing it, because they're afraid of the change. If I actually do what I know, it would shake my life up. And I don't know if I want it shaken up quite
Yeah.
yet. You know.
Inspiration, if you will.
But I think that's just such an important thing is that knowing stuff is like if you know it, you got to act on it in spite of how it feels. Right, Maurice? I think you've got a saying that you usually do about that. I can't think of what it is right now, but it's just you act on it. If it's the right thing, it's right action for right action's sake. We've talked about that a ton. You do it because it's the right thing to do, regardless of the consequences, regardless of the initial feeling behind it. Because all those things will realign to bring you, an incredible sense of satisfaction and fulfillment by doing the right thing, by acting on the knowledge you have. Yeah, does that make sense?
It does. It absolutely does to me anyway. Hopefully it's transmitted to the listeners. I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can like all this stuff. It's like, oh, yeah, that's great. And I know this, I know that. We can discount a lot of things people say. And I kind of wonder sometimes if people discount a lot of my videos. And this isn't to be like, oh, self-aggrandizing.
There you go.
Is it's not that at all. But my message is always I try to make things super simple. And how things come through me, wisdom comes through me is through simplifying patterns, simplifying the puzzle, so it's really easy to understand. It's not, if people make it really complex, like you look at spiritual things, they make it really complex. I'm always suspicious, like what's going on there, because it doesn't have to be complex, for us to actually be who we're meant to be. That's like a simple thing because it's like the most natural thing, to be you. It's not being you is the unnatural thing and takes all the hard work, is resisting who you are. But yeah, so that's I wonder sometimes, I mean, we'll see what happens to the Rebel Crone channel as time goes on. But my message will be about making it simple, but that doesn't make it necessarily easy for people to do, and it doesn't discount the value of what's being said.
Well, do you remember Carl Sagan
Mm-hmm.
on television? He was a scientist. He was a very smart man. But what he was, they called him a popularizer. He made that complex scientific stuff that he knew all about understandable to the general population that did not have the training and specificity that he had. So popularizer can be, you can look at that word and say, well, that just diminishes stuff, but it doesn't. He simplified it so people could understand what the hell he was trying to point out. And yes, he had all kinds of books that he could have referred to or quoted that nobody would understand. That's specialized knowledge. That's privatized.
Yeah, but that's also, don't you think, Maurice, that's also, let's see if I get this word right, I'm tongue tied today, obfuscation is where things is made complicated. Like I feel like a lot of these areas, whether it's in the legal realm, scientific realm, medical realm, where they create a lot of big words around things and a lot of jargon, a lot of ways of saying things that's, well, it's legal speak. Well, it's medical talk. You can't know that because we're trained and we know the secret code of how to
we're
talk.
special and you're not. Yeah.
But it just creates then it gives them license to do whatever because we can't understand it. Well, we should be able to understand it. Just say it. Just say what it is. Why can't you write a legal document and just say, I promise to, and if I don't, that happens?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
instead of, 20 pages of all this stuff, it's like, oh my God, it makes it complicated so people can't understand, is my point with it. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just
No, but that's
felt like,
exactly that's
yeah,
exactly the point. And that you do that. You make it so that somebody that's not as attuned to it as you are, that's kind of, looking at it and is interested in it, wants to know what's going on, you put it in a way they can freaking understand. And it makes sense to them.
you.
So
Thank you.
therefore, you've transmitted the message. If you sit there and do a whole bunch of specialized knowledge, or uh, have 18 different programs that they can sign up for, that'll take them 2 years to finish, you're not really, you're selling a product. You're not transmitting information really.
My information is about the here and now, right now. It's not about vast knowledge of bringing things, all this stuff together, to wake people up. That's not my gift. I love all that stuff. My gift is really about making things simple to understand as far as your beingness,
Well, listen,
how
we're
you're
two,
designed.
we're two people that are working our way through all of this stuff, and we're sharing where we are right now. And hopefully it's encouraging to others that haven't quite, traveled as far. And you say, hey, without going into specifics of this, that, and the other tragedy that either one of us have had along the way, or missteps and all of that kind of thing, just know in advance. Yeah, we had some things happen to us too. However, despite all of that, here we are.
I tell you, I know you haven't. I certainly have not led like the charmed life. The life of, like, people say, oh, but at least you got this really pretty avatar and those things came easy to you. No, I worked my way through this world, and I had a lot of challenges, a lot of suffering in it, whether it was needed or not. I definitely had that as I worked my way up and out of my circumstances. And I know you've done the same too, Maurice. And
Yeah.
because the real battle, the real war that's being fought is the war within each one of us.
Yep.
It's that battle of the lower self. It's the battle of the programming. We should say, just say, not even lower self, because there's higher, lower selves, shadow self. I accept that within me, but it's the battle of the programming, that really is fought within. Like, what have we accepted? What have we been taught? What are we currently being shown as far as that this is reality? It's not. We got to fight against that. Um, and our lower impulses, a lot of our lower impulses, that's the real game. That's the real regime change, so to speak, that needs to happen, is the regime within you. We talk
Exactly.
about
True.
politically, people are, oh my God, the new one coming in, yay, or oh, it's the end of the world for it. It's the beginning of a new world. It's nothing. It's just what it is. It's going to be more of the same in a different flavor.
Agreed.
The only change that happens is like the regime change from within.
That's the
You
only
know,
that's the only change that matters really.
yeah,
That and even that observation is foreign language to a lot of people. I know that already. So I don't preach it. I don't share it. I just show it.
yeah.
I just be, because we are.
Just be. Because
Yeah.
what are we, Maurice? What are we?
Yeah. We're human beings, aren't we?
We are. So true. Well, thank you for sporting my plug for the Rebel Crone.
You're welcome. It's true though.
I don't- yeah,
Yeah.
I just like to be able to be clear with people, like who I am and what I'm doing. What's my skills? What are my skill sets? And that's my skill set, is to make things easy. And I feel, and hopefully we do that in our chat together. We make it digestible. And even though Maurice, people that are really in the know or have traversed the path, our peers, that I hope that they do find this enjoyable too, because how often do we need reminders? I need reminders, different kinds than it was, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, a year ago, different level of reminders and in a different way. But it's always like, okay, yeah, to just like remember and be reminded, who we are, why we're here, how to unleash the magic of who you are.
That's well, yes, that there is an aspect of magic within us that we don't recognize, generally speaking. The thing is, what you do and what I do too is we're not exclusive. We know that within everybody is the potential to do this, and we let them one way or another. We share that kind of information. You don't have to have special this, that, and the other thing. Everybody has the potential to open up to what we're talking about. It's not an exclusive club that it's now that many people do not do that seems to be a reality. But I guarantee you, everybody has the potential, and they can do it. It can happen for everybody.
And don't you feel like though at different levels? I mean, I know people in my world that past, present, who know, hopefully less and less in the future, but just aren't, I mean, they ain't their time to wake up. It's not their time. That's not what I would say waking up. That's a little bit of a judgmental thing. But what I mean by waking up is to be seen underneath the blanket that's spread out for us to dine on, the blanket of what the world says, here's the banquet for you. And we pull it up and we go, no, we want to see what's really going underneath it. It doesn't mean that growth and stuff can't happen for people sitting on the blanket and dining abundantly on it. It's a different path. It's something different they're supposed to accomplish. We have a different experience, and I don't believe everybody's meant to go under it. Some go under it and see things to a certain level, and then boop, they reach a place that may be their ceiling, so to speak, on what they can accomplish given everything. And it's okay. It's okay. Like I no longer feel judgy about people in where they are in their life. It's all different for all of us. It's just really fun when you find kindred spirits that you can walk together on this and we can share things. And
yeah, I agree. And that's back again what I started out with again pretty early. We're at least in my life, and I know in your life, you're finding people that we could call kindred spirits, and we recognize it. And we don't recognize it by the normal expected manners, by language. We know it energetically.
Yeah.
And that's different. That at least that's what I notice is different. That is happening.
Yeah.
You don't hear about that on MSNBC News, I guess. I haven't watched TV in 3 years, so I don't know what's on there anymore. I don't even know.
Oh, hell no. You're not going to see this anything on TV. I mean, there are some. Oh, I got to tell you. Oh. I've been watching his Dark Materials, and I'm on season 2. I love it. Man, that is a show worth watching. I just have it on my regular cable. It came up on it. And his Dark Materials is a TV show that was done many years back. And it's 3 seasons with it. Maurice says the 3rd season is really fantastic. I've loved the first 2. It's so freaking profound. Oh my God. It is so many truth bombs woven in there in an incredible way of pointing at what the Catholic Church and different religions have done, and the different power structures in the world. They've spun it in this fantastical way in this story, this fictional story, that it's really easy to digest, super profound, and people will see it at different levels. They can just have it as just incredible entertainment, or looking at it with eyes that can see, and you're like, whoa, somebody's on the beat with that. Whoever wrote that and directed it, man, that was good stuff.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, season 3, you need to see. You think
I'm getting through it as fast as I can by watch one episode a night, and I'm like pooping out really early. Like I can't stay away.
I didn't watch that. It took me, I think, 2 days, maybe 3 at the most, but that was freaking good. Yeah.
It's so freaking good. His Dark Materials.
Yeah.
Gonna love it. Oh my God. It's great.
It's based on a series of books, by the way.
A friend of mine said that they read the books, and years ago.
The Golden something or other. I forget the name of it.
Golden Compass. Golden Compass.
Yeah. I think that was just the title of one of the books too. But the point is, that's taken from an original book, and it's like you said, it's great. It really is.
For fans that love any kind of Tolkien's work or any of that, it's different but similar in a way that it is like uh purveying a statement about society, a very accurate one through a fantastical kind of story.
Yeah,
Um,
I enjoyed the hell out of it. I really did.
yeah, so thank you. Thank you for turning me. I don't even know what we're talking about, but I totally schwanked it over on that because I've been meaning to tell you, but I've been meaning to even just like text you and say, Maurice, I'm watching it. It's
Good for you.
awesome. Oh my
You
gosh.
you
And there's
definitely
very
have.
few things I watch that actually I feel like are really entertaining deeply to me because it's talking about it's got a real message.
There's
Um,
another one that I watched that I'll recommend, whether you
okay.
actually tune into it or not. It's older. It's called The Magicians.
Oh.
Oh, is that a good one? But I between them, I think the Golden Compass. Well, the his Dark Materials is what it's labeled as. And by the way, you can get that on streaming sites for free on your YouTube or on your browser if you want.
I'm sure you can. This is just free on regular TV, which
Yeah,
is
that's
really
cool.
nice.
Yeah.
But I've got to get out of this cable thing, spending all this money a month and just go to these free streaming sites. I just have to make the transition with it, cut the cord, so to speak. But yeah, recommend that. But I think our conversation, the minute we start bringing up the topics we started with, I know it's time to start wrapping up. And we
Okay.
really started this whole thing about, talking about people about the beingness, about what word did we have, like synergy,
Yeah,
the
that's a good word
synergies.
too.
Yeah, synergy in life. And I think like for me, and I'll let you go, Maurice, and just for my holiday wish or blessing upon all of our viewers and all my friends and acquaintances, that I would want them to just trust the synergy in life and just trust to let go into the flow of who they are. And just expect like the beautiful thing. And miracles are only a miracle because we don't, seemingly a miracle because we don't understand the principles at work behind it. But this is, I don't know if scientific is the right word to say, but there is absolutely laws, spiritual laws that govern this reality. And one of them is, I feel like, is the law of the synergy and flow. And we may say it's magic, but it's not. It's there. And we don't need to go into it now, but there is, there's mechanisms in place, that you discover that for yourself, how that works. It's repeatable, not just repeatable, but it's you can live in that, so that the gifts next year come to you. My wish is that all the things that would feed your heart and your soul and bring you your greatest joy, that those are the things that you allow to manifest through you. So
The thing
that,
is about that,
yeah.
the people they don't recognize it, but they are. They're freaking worthy of it. They deserve it. They literally are worthy. And one of the other things is our society, which is the opposite, the overlay, if you will. You're not worthy. You're guilty. You don't deserve anything you get. You're lucky maybe at the best, and that's so bullshit. It really is. But people buy that because that's all that they're taught until they somehow something turns on within them that they start to question that mantra that is bestowed upon them from every corner. And once
Right.
that light turns on within, and that's another thing. What is that light? It's and where is it coming from? And then what you do is you allow that, and the more you allow it, the more it becomes true. The more it becomes the way you do your life, and then you find yourself in a completely different place.
Oh, and sometimes that transition, right, Maurice, cannot be fun. It can be sad. It can be some pain involved, but we make it through it, and we know on the other side things are going to line up more accurately for everybody. If it's not right for you, whoever that is, and whatever that is on their side, it's not right for that. So you got to trust in that it's gonna work out,
I agree.
naturally if we
It will.
allow it to.
Yeah, it will. It will. I agree.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else you want to say before we close,
No,
Maurice,
just
as far as
obviously, Christmas. There's a whole story about that, but the spirit of that people share with one another is beyond the formality of the I want to say celebration, but it's the what does the church always do? They go through their strict procedures. Shit, I used that word yesterday and I can't remember it now. Uh, oh, I'm sorry.
you mean
Everybody
at Christmas time or in general, like
in
the
general,
canons or
yeah, it's um this disturbs me that this happens to me, but nonetheless, um uh damn, all these words running through my head and it's not the one. Uh,
oh, you talking about like the church canons, the church,
oh no, just the fact that they go through the set procedures.
yeah, there's ceremonies.
Yeah, it's ceremony, but it's something else. It's even shallower than that. It's
Yeah, because ceremonies like a good the rituals or
that's the word I was looking for. Frickin' rituals. That
yeah.
society's rituals, they have no meaning anymore, as if they ever did. But or the deep meaning behind the rituals is disguised and hidden and sold as something else. But ritual is once again, that's external and that's shallow as hell. And then that's
Gosh, oh go ahead.
I was
Sorry.
just going to say, there's a lot of ritual in the Christmas tide thing, but there's also spirit in there too.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. The spirit of Christmas, what it represents to us internally. It is. It's love. It's sharing. It's giving. It's kindness. It's all the virtues, if you will. That's what we really want. That's what
It's
everybody wants. They
it's
want
true. I think it take don't do like the soulless ritual of just repeating it like I'm being family and that's what I do over and over and it's just lock and load same pattern. Make it instead of ritual lacking of spirit from you, make it ceremonial. As
there
I'm
you go.
going into this family gathering, what a blessing. I'm here right now with them right now. This one time I have this fresh time. Now get rid of the past. Don't worry about the future and just be present for the ritual so you can elevate it to something else. And
Right.
I do feel like this whole thing, we all know the ridiculousness of Santa Claus and what does this actually have to do with Christ light or, or the real Jesus, what happened, nothing, but that doesn't mean you can't still imbue it with meaning. It's an opportunity to come together and the giving of gifts. Yeah, if you're thinking, oh, I got a think of stuff to do, then don't do it. I feel sorry for you. But if you go, oh, what could I give this person to demonstrate or to reflect how I feel about them? If I can make them something or do something for them and bless them with a part of me because I love them.
Yeah. Be
And
genuine. Be genuine.
yeah,
And you know
yeah.
what it means, not genuine so I can get something, but be because we are giving beings. We got more to give. The ability to give is endless.
Yeah.
It isn't only determined by dollars and cents, as you well know, and as everybody listening to this well knows.
You make a handmade card for somebody, you don't have money to do anything, but you make a handmade card, find a stinking piece of paper, maybe some scotch tape or glue and put some pictures on it, cut out from a magazine that, reminds you of them and it's right for them. And you write a little note on that. That means more than however big a thing that you can get them, how expensive of jewelry or bigger a car or whatever that means more to a person that, will feed their soul because you did it and it's simple, but it's imbued with love.
There you
It's
go. That if you talk about a concluding statement, if you can keep it in your awareness, even that's great. Feed people their soul, and that's all you need to do. And how you do that is unique, individual, and in the moment. But just keep that in mind. You want to feed their soul, whatever that
yeah.
means to you, and it has different meanings to different people. But if you can do that, you have had a wonderful encounter, and that's what we're doing. We just encounter each other and share where we are at the time. one way or another, we share where we are and who we are, or who we think we are.
Yeah, be cognizant of that and choose wisely what you share with my friends. Because
Yeah, yeah.
oh, oh, Maurice, thank you so much. I really feel great about today's conversation. I think it's just full of blessings. I feel blessed by it. I know you feel blessed by it, and we
It's
will be
always
blessing
enjoyable to
others.
me. Yeah, yeah. I listen very closely to what you have to say because you come at it from a different perspective than I do, but yet I understand what you're saying. It's great.
Dittos. Dittos, my friend. Okay, I'm going to sign off to everybody and then we'll stay on and chat a little bit more, Maurice. But blessings to you on this holiday. And just remember to imbue everything you do with the freshness and the love and kindness and compassion of who you really are. And you can make it a wonderful holiday no matter who or what you are to, who or where you're supposed to be. Just make it magic for yourself. You have that power.
Yep, you do.
As always, peace from within, and we will catch up with you in another week. Bye bye, y'all.